The following review will contain spoilers to the movie and the series, so be warned.
Something is clearly wrong.
Steven Universe the movie just aired on Cartoon Network insert number of days ago. The movie takes place a few years after the events of the latest episodes. Long story short, the diamond attack is over, all gems of all different shapes and sizes are respected and treated equally, and the last Metroid is in captivity, the galaxy is at peace. Our protagonist Steven Universe can finally take a break, but oh no! An unknown enemy from space, comes to ruin Steven's good time, and also destroy the world too, I guess. It's up to Steven and the Crystal Gems to stop this new foe and save the world. Again. So did I think this was a good movie? No, I did not.
That's it? That was just a budget!
Hoopla!
Were there good parts to it? Absolutely, and we'll be covering everything right now. My main problem with the movie is that it has lots of style, it has lots of grace. But the problem with this movie is the lack of substance. S.U. The movie ain't great. My voice. Not doing that again. I should preface this by saying that I have seen every episode of the show, but I wouldn't call myself a fan as it's not my favorite show on the market at the moment. So without further ado, let's go. Part 1. A spectacle to behold. So two things I really enjoyed about this movie are the music and animation. Let's start with the music because I think that everyone was hopeful that the music was going to be good. After all, it was marketed as a musical, so if the music was bad, that should set a precedent for how the rest of the movie was going to pan out. Yeah, not very good. The soundtrack was amazing. All the vocal artists and musicians did a superb job. Except Kate Micucci. I'm sorry, I just cannot bring myself to say that she is a good singer, because I just do not think that. Other than that, you can listen to it all on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description. The animation was great as well. I know a lot of people crap on the show for having bad art and animation, and I've heard something about some sort of Californian style that is all the rage apparently. I don't have the details, but I've honestly never had a problem with it. You can really tell where the budget went for this movie, as there's more than one scene that has absolutely stunning animation. My personal favorite is the first Spinel fight scene. I'll talk more about Spinel later, I will definitely. But just know now that her style is based on the rubber hose era of animation, and they absolutely nailed it with her. Part 2.
All that glitters is not gold.
Oh god, there's something in my throat. So earlier I said that you can tell that the budget went towards the animation and music. I meant that in both a positive and negative sense. Positive because... okay, well that one's obvious. But negative because everything else with the movie is shoddy, from the writing to the characters to the plot. Kinda like the TV series as a whole. There were so many points in the movie where I was questioning all the choices that the characters were making, especially Steven, including... why would he bring Spinel's gem back to the beach house with everyone else? Why would he hold on to the scythe and not store it somewhere safe? How did he fuse with his dad if his powers weren't up to par, and fusing is one of the most complex things a gem can do? Why did he fuse with his dad, since I don't think any of us needed to see that or make those implications.
I can't believe Mom did that to you. Actually, I can totally believe it. You're not the only one she hurts. It's not like that! You deserve a better friend! Spinel, come back and save the Earth with me. You can start over there. Make new friends.
Is that all you needed me for? To turn off my injector? What now? I did what you wanted. That's it?
Well, yeah.
Why? Why did you say that then and there? Do you not know how to read the room? That was so dumb! Why wouldn't he go visit the diamonds? With that last one especially, holy fuck, the entire problem would have been taken care of if Steven just went to the diamonds after getting hit by the default factory rescythe and reformed, and been like, hey, you guys, can you help me fix the gems? Okay, thanks. Like, even if that didn't work, at least try. It's not like they couldn't get to the gems easily either. They had the warp pads in the spaceship intact for the entirety of the movie. Oh, and speaking of the characters, let's talk about them. Except one who I'm saving for later. In the beginning of the movie, the gems are singing about how their lives were broken and painful, but now they're happy and having a good time. At first, I thought this was useless exposition. Like, everyone who's watching this movie is bound to know your past problems and how you overcame them. This isn't a movie that you can just watch on its own. You really need to be a fan of the show, or at least watch the episode to, understand and enjoy what's going on. But when they get dusted by the default factory rescythe and they lose all their memories, they are portrayed as they were originally. Pearl being a servant of the person who awakens her, that being Greg in this scenario. Amethyst being labeled as an imperfect gem being born from the kindergarten. Sapphire being a bit uppity and preppy, and Ruby being the bodyguard for Sapphire. On one hand, this forgives the exposition-y song that I was referring to, as it actually has plot relevance now. But on the other hand, they're stuck like this for the good portion of the movie, and because of that, there's absolutely no character development with them whatsoever. The majority of the plot of the movie is getting the gems back to normal so they can help save the Earth from Spinel's machine. To do so, Steven needs to get them to experience events similar to the ones that changed them into the gems they were today. With Amethyst, I guess it makes sense how it happens. She needed a friend to tell her that she wasn't disfigured and, who would see her as a living human being. Or gem, I guess. And he's able to pull that off. With Pearl, it makes more sense. When she was subservient to Rose, the moment that changed her was when Rose abandoned her for someone else, in this case, Greg. So having Greg, who Pearl was subservient to after the reset, and Steven fuse, while it was extremely uncomfortable due to some metaphors being thrown around here and there on the internet, which I will ignore because it's technically not factually true or factually proven, and also not making much sense, as I said before, because of, I guess it's just a Deus Ex Machina, whatever, kicked her back into gear as well, feeling the same abandonment that she felt with Rose. And then there's Garnet's transformation back. Yeah, this one is really dumb. So Ruby and Sapphire are able to fuse back together into Garnet after Sapphire saves Ruby from being crushed. It's kind of like a role reversal of what originally happened with Ruby saving Sapphire. But their memory is still out of whack. So instead of anything else from Garnet's past being able to snap her out of it, it's this that's able to do the trick.
You wanna attack me? Just admit it. Or better yet, just try it.
That's not the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
Now, there could be something from Garnet's past that I'm missing that triggered this. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan, but holy fuck, that is a massive cop-out otherwise. Still not as bad as Steven's arc. See, Steven got hit with the default factory rescythe as well, but instead of being poofed, since he's half human, his powers went back to when he wasn't able to control them. Good idea, honestly. His arc is him trying his best to get through the movie without dying with very minimal gem powers, despite being able to fuse rather easily. I'm really sorry I had to bring this up again, because I do not like this scene very much at all. And yeah, you could argue that he almost died after unfusing, but fusing shouldn't be that easy to initiate in the first place. Anyway, this all leads to the climax where the whole turning point of him getting his powers back was that he changed throughout this series and movie.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
Yeah, that's like a no shit moment right there, like, duh? Despite that, I started thinking to myself, did he really change? Was he any different from the young boy back in season 1 making dumb decisions? In many ways, no. He was still making absolutely stupid, ridiculous mistakes, which I talked about before, and he was never really into fighting unless it was 100% absolutely necessary, and even then he'd find a cop-out. Like, yeah, he got more talented with his gem powers, but is that really a personality change? I'd argue not. Now, there's one other character I haven't talked about yet, but before I gush about them, another big gripe I had with this movie is that they played it safe with locations. 90% of them took place in pre-established locations, including Beach City, a place we've seen many times before. And it's boring. And the people that work there are boring. The whole point of a movie is, like to expand, outside of boundaries, take the characters places that they've never been before. And they really played it safe with this movie, and it's kind of a little bit disappointing. It's not the most major gripe I have with the movie, but at the same time, it's definitely something to consider. Part 3. Holy fuck, I can finally talk about Spinel. I'm so excited, you guys have no fuck. Alright, so you probably saw this pasta prima donna make her way around the internet, with people constantly showing off art and clips from the movies and her song and all that jazz. But do I think that Spinel's spindliness really is the saving grace? Absolutely. 100% yes. Without a doubt, Spinel was the greatest part of the movie. I'd even go as far to say that she has been the greatest part of the series as a whole. As I mentioned earlier, her style is very reminiscent of the rubber hose era of animation, and that's made even more clear when she herself is hit by the default factory rescythe and turns into a Laffy Taffy! She's super expressive, her movements are full of energy and full of squash and stretch movement, and even her idle animation has her constantly bouncing up and down. That's not to say that she was super boring pre-Scythe. Normally the villain songs are the weakest of the bunch when it comes to these types of productions, but I'll be damned if Other Friends and Drift Away aren't bar none the best songs of the entire series, let alone the movie. With Other Friends specifically, the visuals absolutely enhanced the experience, with her having fun with her powers and toying with the crystal gems. Actually, let's talk about her history a bit more. So a lot of criticisms I see regarding this show is the fact that they kind of just forgive the villains very easily, including the Diamonds, who are confirmed to be genocidal murderers, which, yes, that is true, and I 100% agree that is stupid. The same thing basically happens with Spinel here, where he forgives her after she's questioning why she's even trying to kill Steven and friends. People criticize this, placing it with forgiving the Diamonds, and while I will admit that the redemption happened way too quickly, I don't think it's a fair comparison for two reasons. First, while Spinel did dust the main trio of the crystal gems, that's the worst thing she did, and it's not like that's a permadeath or anything, unlike our colorful gang of Diamonds just cracking gems because they don't know that the water glass goes on the right and the bread plate goes on the left. And second, she had an actual reason to be upset and angry with Steven, or should I say Pink Diamond. About 2/3 into the movie, it's revealed that Spinel was originally Pink Diamond's playmate, and spent all their time in Pink's garden, playing games and having fun. That explains Spinel's Joker-esque design and movement. She's fun because being fun was her purpose. But then one day, Pink Diamond just yeeted out of there and told Spinel to stand and wait in the garden, masking it as a game. And she waited, and waited, and waited, and Pink never came back. It wasn't until Steven made his broadcast from Homeworld, which Spinel was able to pick up, as you could see by this subtle hint in the beginning of the movie, that Spinel went fully bad. So she decides to get revenge on Pink/Steven for abandoning her in the garden all those years, and in process destroying Earth and resetting the gems, which she seemed to care more about than Spinel. Yeah, it's no surprise to anyone that's been keeping up with this series that Pink Diamond is awful. Her morals, her reasoning, her treatment of Pearl, I mean, she literally caused the Gem Wars. Spinel, while taking things pretty far, and I wouldn't say she is completely in the right, was definitely not in the wrong for being upset with Pink and wanting closure. Pink abandoned her, and because of that, she has abandonment issues for the entire movie. And when we see her sad, we're sad as well because we actually understand the reasoning for her anger.
Heart Heavy. Feelings hurt. Must adapt. Replace sadness with rage!
Before we get to the conclusion, I should note that the only problem I have with Spinel isn't even a problem with her or her character as a whole, but more so the writing around her. So we can see that she sees the broadcast in the beginning of the movie, and she gets to Earth not too long after the exposition song? Are we just supposed to believe that she was able to get the default factory rescythe, find the injector, and travel to Earth in less than an afternoon? I was going to say that I expected better from the writing, but then I remembered it's Steven Universe, so I guess that's on me. Part 4. Conclusion. Look, I get what they were trying to go for. A mixture of a Broadway musical and Disney aesthetic, and they really nailed it on the head with certain aspects, like the animation and music. I think we can all agree on that at least. Spinel was a breath of fresh air that the series definitely needed. She's absolutely the best villain of the show, even better than the Diamonds, I'd argue. And even the time skip was a nice touch. I can only imagine how much the voice actor was straining his voice to sound younger. But like a game with incredible graphics and shitty gameplay, you can't just be superb in the looks and sound department if the backbone of the movie is extremely flawed. I know that with this show you kind of need to look past some things to enjoy it, given how flimsy the writing has been for 90% of the show, and I get it. But the whole point of a movie is to develop these characters, raise the stakes, explore new grounds, and especially enhance the world if the show isn't done yet. And in that regard, the movie failed on all those accounts. The gems were caught in this amnesia plot for a majority of the movie. Spinel caused and solved the injector problem, so really no need for the gems to be there at all. They cut out Connie for like 95% of the film. I don't know what they were thinking with that. There were no new places explored besides the garden for like 3 minutes. We spend most of the movie in Beach City, which we've seen countless times again and again, and at the end of the movie Spinel goes off with the diamonds because, oh look, they solved the problem, Steven! That in itself seems like a pretty cutthroat way of saying that she was only limited to the movie, though I'd like to be proven wrong. This movie is not great. I'd argue it's not even really that good. It's an enjoyable movie. I enjoyed many parts of the movie, but in my mind I know that I cannot say that this is a good movie, because it isn't. If this happened with any other franchise or anything like that, I'd say the same thing. Am I looking forward to what this series has to offer in the future? It really depends. There's no way we're getting music and animation like this for the series from here on in. TV show and movie budgets are vastly different, even TV movies, so I can't really expect anything on that front. In regards to writing and plot, something tells me they are not going to change their ways. But I will say this. To the Crewniverse, if you're dead set on keeping this forgiving the villain mentality, even though I don't agree with it, then go for it. But make Pink Diamond the cause for it. Have them travel the universe to fix all of Pink's problems that she caused, because there's no way that Spinel is the only exception. It won't be great, but at least it'll make sense because I think we can all agree that Pink Diamond is the worst. Also, why are they making Steven kiss the ground? Is that how he fixes everything? I mean, just force feed him cheese and milk and then have him spit all over the ground. See, now that would be an awesome twist.
That's right, I heard the story over and over again. Gee, it's swell to finally meet her other friends. That's right, I heard the story, don't really like how it ends. Gee, it's swell to finally meet her other friends. What did she say about me? What did she say?